are live. It's Empire State of Baseball, episode number 48 on this Monday, June the 5th, 2023, airing on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and as always, powered by StreamYard. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Major day for Empire State of Baseball. What's going on?
Yeah, this is a big one. We got a first episode that we're live streaming to 3 separate apps. We've always done Twitch, so for those of you following us since our first year last year, thank you again for listening in on Twitch. All of the recaps and segments have all been posted on YouTube, so thank you to our YouTube followers. But this is a first tonight, also streaming to Twitter for the very first time. And Twitter's where we have our biggest following. Most of our interaction with the fans are on Twitter. Love talking with the Met fans on there, the Yankee fans. We also have some general sports fans who just want to interact and talk sports. So thank you for everyone who's tuning in tonight, whether you're a new listener or for those who have been with us since day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get us on a good week, too. Mets and Yankees have given us a lot to talk about. Mets have kind of gone on the typical roller coaster of a ride that this season has been. So we're excited. Like I said, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch. Don't forget, if you're watching on one of the platforms, go visit the other platforms. I believe if you're looking to join the comment section, Twitch and YouTube are the spots for that. Twitter, unfortunately, doesn't let you comment and let us see it live during the show, but we're going to be checking that and trying to join the conversation no matter what. So,
oh yeah, just be interactive on everything. As Joe mentioned just there, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. This is an awesome night for us, and for 47 episodes, we were airing exclusively on Twitch. We're still airing on Twitch, but it's time to branch out because everybody deserves a little bit of Empire State of Baseball on a Monday. And what to expect for tonight, and this is pretty much the caveat for most of our shows, but the lineup card, except for one segment that we're going to get into later on tonight. We start off everything with the Queen's Gambit. It's our wraparound with the New York Mets, everything latest with the New York Mets. As we had mentioned on our social media platforms, the Mets are 5-7 in the last 12 games after having that nice 5-game win streak against tough teams. They're now in the midst of their toughest stretch of the season, arguably. So we got to talk about everything Mets related in just a few. We're going to get things started with that. Then we have Chooch's Pick of the Week, where our good buddy Matt Chooch Tucker joins us for his series selection. He takes one big series coming up, he hypes it up, and he gives his prediction, and then we review it on the show live. Then we have The Bronx is Burning, similar to the Queen's Gambit. It is the Yankees wraparound, all the latest and greatest with the Yankees. Some big stories happening. They're coming off a huge AL West swing, but it looks like they might be without Nestor Cortez and Aaron Judge to start the next series, and possibly Anthony Volpe. A lot of talks around the possible demotion. We're going to get into that later on tonight. Then we have a fun segment called Guess the Graph, where we're going to guess the autograph baseball as provided by one of our co-hosts tonight. That's Joe. And finally, we're going to wrap things up with the state of baseball, and we're going to talk about City Connects. And if the Yankees and Mets should get into the City Connect game, we have some mock-up designs we're going to show off. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be on later tonight. But I promised we'd start out with Mets talk, so let's get into it with the Queen's Gambit. So, Joe, Corey, roller coaster of emotions over the last few weeks. You know, from when we did this show last prior to the Memorial Day weekend, we were feeling good about the Mets. We had big wins, huge comeback. They were looking like the team from last year, all to just go back down to 500 after a sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays. So not a good look for the Mets there. So how you guys feeling, starting with Joe?
yeah, listen, I mean, this season's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down. When one part of this team clicks, another part of this team lets itself down. The Mets actually look like they've gotten their start in pitching together. Okay, Senga had a bad start the other day. McGill kind of toughed it out for a while, fell into trouble. But at the end of the day, the Mets pitching has kept them in every game in the past week or so. The problem is the pitching's now good and the hitting stinks. It's cyclical of what's going on right now, you know, and everybody seems to slump at the same time, whether it's the starting pitchers having difficult all at the same time. Now it's the core of this team's lineup having difficulties at the same time right now. Lindor is ice cold. Alonso, okay, he hit the home run in the last game of the series, but he's been cold. Nimmo took a day off the other day. He's been cold. The Mets cannot survive. They can survive one guy being cold and one guy slumping. They cannot survive when the core of their team, their top 3 hitters, are all slumping at the same time. The only positive out of this weekend is it looks like Marte is starting to come out of it, which is what you needed. But unfortunately, if you do not get guys going and they do not get going at the same time, this team's not going to hit all that often.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how you have a little bit of a role reversal because in the first month of the season, Marte and Canna were the 2 guys who were really struggling on offense. Right now, those are the 2 guys who are actually the hottest hitters on the team over the last couple of weeks. And even Tommy Pham, listen, he had 2 home runs the other day, so good for Pham as well. But like Joe said, right now, it's either the pitching is bad or the hitting's bad. And when one's good, the other is bad. And what happens when that happens? It's a 500 ball club. And right now, this team is exactly 500, 30-30. And they are the model of inconsistency. They have a ton of talented players on this team, and some are performing well, and a lot of them are slumping. And they're having nights where they're putting up 10 runs. They're having nights where they're getting shut out. It's already June 5th. They've been shut out as many times this year as all of last season. And last season, we said a lot of things about the offense lacking some power, but at least last year, they were putting the ball in play. They were converting with guys and runners in scoring position, line drive, moving runners over. And the problem is right now, they're not sustaining that offense, at least over the last weekend. The top of the order, Brandon Nimmo, the first month of the season, he was one of the hottest hitters in baseball. And right now, he's in a big slump as your 1 hitter. Your 2 hitter, Lindor, granted, 13th in the majors in RBIs, 5th in the National League in RBIs, but he's hitting 213. I mean, that's a $340 million shortstop right now hitting 213. I do think he's going to break out of it. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. I love having him on this team. But your 1 and 2 hitters right now are doing nothing. They're not table setting for this offense. And the guys who are producing right now, like a Marte, like a Canna, like an Alvarez, are all hitting a little further towards the bottom. And what's happening all these nights? The Mets are going down early. Even the games where the starting pitching is doing well. Look at Verlander on Friday night. Verlander gave up 1 run in 6 innings. The guy pitched awesome. 117 pitches, looked great doing so. But they were down 1-0 in the first inning. And you look at the first inning numbers for the Mets, and this is a problem right now that's a bit frustrating. And this was not an issue last year. It was actually a strength. In the first inning alone, all right, in all of the games we've played to date, 60 games, the Mets have been winning after 1 inning just 5 times, losing after the first inning 21 times, tied 34 times. So more times than not, I mean, you're almost 45% of the time, you're losing after the first inning. And regardless of how good your team is, if you're constantly playing from behind, it's a strain on your team night in, night out. And that's something that they really got to turn around.
Listen, my biggest problem is if you guys are going to go 500 for the week, could you at least beat the Blue Jays once? I mean, like, honestly, dick move, Mets. Like, just beat them once. They're such an annoying bunch of whiny babies, and I had to watch Vlad get a big hit and then do like 75 celebrations like he just won the WWE title. It's obnoxious, and I just wanted the Mets to do something for me for once, but you failed.
They took 2 out of 3 against Tampa when they needed it most. I mean, it's not like they're
that's the past. We're living today, Rich. We're living today, and the Mets did nothing for me personally over the last 3 games.
So it's tough, and I think a big question for Mets fans moving forward, and like I had mentioned in the lineup, the Mets are in the midst of a very tough stretch, and possibly their toughest stretch of the entire season. So the Mets just got past the Toronto Blue Jays here, and the Phillies, also a great team. But now you're looking at an upcoming series against the Atlanta Braves starting tomorrow. The Pirates, who were a first-place team for a while. The Yankees for 2. The Cardinals, who are working their way back up. The Astros, the Phillies again. The Brewers, who are a first-place team. This is a tough stretch coming up for the Mets. So what needs to change? What needs to happen for this team to get back into their winning ways against great ball clubs coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to get to the point where the team is playing consistent baseball. I mean, right now we're just not playing consistent baseball. I need more consistency in the lineup. I think part of that is I need a more cohesive lineup game in and game out. Vogelback has reached his end here. Nito's gone. Thankfully, listen, I like Nito. He's a good guy. He was a great guy to have in the clubhouse, but 125 and a 150 on base percentage isn't cutting it under any circumstances. I mean, that's pitcher level offense out of a guy who's supposed to be one of your catchers. So that's not acceptable. He's gone. And the Mets need to figure out a more consistent rotation with these players. Vogelback's going to have to sit. He doesn't provide enough power. He doesn't provide enough offense. And at the rate he's going, he's going to get DFA'd sooner rather than later. They just need to find what works and go from there. But, this team's been treading water. Amazingly, the amazing part about all of this, they're only 5.5 games back with the 3-game set against the Braves. I mean, the Mets could theoretically be 2.5 back by the end of this week. And all of a sudden, you're going to look at your chances and say, all right, now we got a pretty good shot to at least still stay in it. So it's a very odd season, first 60 games so far for them.
Yeah, no, it's very strange right now. And thankfully, like you said, Joe, they're only 5.5 back because the Braves aren't doing that great either. Both the Mets and the Braves over the last couple of weeks have basically been matching each other, playing 500 ball over that stretch. So luckily the Mets haven't lost ground, but they've missed an opportunity to gain some ground. But this is a huge series coming up. I know it's only 3 games, but you want to come into this series and at least take 2 and honestly make a statement, sweep the series. But in terms of turning it around, first, before they worry about the big pictures, just worry about the small things first, all right? I want to call out something on Friday night because this really, really frustrated me in the Friday night game. They were down 1-0 early. And then I think it was the 3rd or the 4th inning. The Mets had 1st and 3rd, no outs. Brandon Nimmo, who normally is a great contact hitter, works the count, great eye. He's the type of guy who's typically working a full count, swings at the first pitch and pops it up. Then you got your 2-hitter, Francisco Lindor. And what does he do? He strikes out on 3 pitches. All right, so now all of a sudden now you have a prime chance to score. All you need is a routine double play, and they're going to concede the run to make it 1-1, all right? Or just get a sac fly. Now you have 2 on, 2 out, and then McNeil pops it up too. So you have your 2 best contact hitters in Nimmo and McNeil. Then you have your highest paid player on the team, one of your best players on the team in Lindor, striking out. They're not converting on the small opportunities. And then again, they're playing from behind. Granted, at that point, it's just 1 run. You could make up 1 run, but they're playing from behind. And look at yesterday's game, Sunday's game. They were down 4-0. Senga did not have a great outing. Senga right now, it's very 50-50. He has a couple of really great games in a row. Then he has a couple of bad ones. When he's on standard rest, that's where he tends to struggle. When he has the extra day, he looks lights out. But you look at that game on yesterday. The Mets actually put up some runs. They had 4 home runs in that game. But you're down 4-0 early. And by the time they come back, you have to do so much just to tie it, so much just to come back that they weren't able to complete the hump. They couldn't take the lead. And then what happens? They lose that game 6-4. So that's the biggest problem. Start converting on the small chances, but stop falling behind early. How about you go out there, put up a run, how about you draw a walk to start the first inning, bunt the guy over, routine line drive, base hit to the outfield, score a run, take a 1-0 lead in the first inning. Let's start simple, and then I'll worry about big picture. Then I'll worry about who's going to be your middle relievers. I'll worry about what trade deadline acquisition you're going to make. Because right now, there's not one deadline move you could make today that's going to change this team drastically. You have to start small and just put the ball in play and convert when you have guys in runners in scoring position.
Well, speaking of trade deadline, we posed this question in our chats here. Who's to blame for the New York Mets recent woe? We did get a comment here from Core Ryan, regular on the chat, host of Core Curriculum, our trivia question segment that we'll have in a couple of weeks. He says Epler put this team together and didn't address some of the deficiencies that were known, and also the last regime, because some of the things that popped up could be addressed with prospects that they don't have because they drafted horribly for the last 10 years. So, based on Corey, your last rant, there's a lot of blame on what's happening on the field. You simply have players that are just not playing to the back of the baseball card. But how much of this is on the front office, on management, on the non-player personnel that put this team together?
There's definitely blame. I'll turn over to you in 1 second, Joe. I know there's a lot of Buck Showalter blame on Twitter too, and there's some Epler blame. I am not an anti-Buck guy right now. I know a lot of times I do disagree with the lineup. Don't get me wrong, but we had the lineup we all wanted Friday night. All the kids played. We got shut out. We had the lineup we hated last night. They put up 4 runs. Tommy Pham, everyone was upset he was leading off. He scored half your runs yesterday with a couple of bombs. So I'm not going to blame Buck Showalter. Grant, I disagree with him sometimes. The Epler concern is a valid debate. And I know we talked about it on previous shows. Listen, when you're running an organization, if you have one member on your team that's doing bad, you replace that member. If you have a department that's doing bad, you replace the department head. If the whole company is underperforming, the shareholders are going for the CEO, and Epler is the CEO of this team. So there's definitely some blame to give out there. And Joe, I know you have some thoughts too on Epler and what he could do, what he can't do. But
I mean, at the end of the day, you can't replace Lindor, you can't replace Alonso, you can't replace Nimmo, and you can't replace McNeil. And at the end of the day, when those guys aren't hitting and when those guys aren't producing, your team's in trouble. And you can extend that to Marte, you can extend that to Canna. Listen, they done what the Mets have requested, even to the point people were screaming 2 weeks ago that they were going to send down Francisco Alvarez. What happened? We DFA'd Gary Sanchez and Nido. We DFA'd 2 catchers at one of the most valuable positions and one of the hardest positions to fill in the major leagues to keep this kid in the majors. They did that. And listen, I get it. People are screaming every time Buck produces a lineup. But we got to take pressure off these kids. These kids are not our saviors in year one. These kids are complementary pieces to a team, and hopefully they develop into core players. You cannot rely on Beatty and Vientos and Alvarez to save this lineup night in and night out. I, for one, think Buck needs a little bit less criticism of the lineup because you got to remember, rookies at the end of the day are still rookies. And when it gets into the dog days of summer and rookies have played more games in a major league season than they ever had before, they get tired. Buck is trying to save these kids right now from having those issues. I'll put it to you this way. Brett Beatty, most games he's ever played last year, 106 games in the minor leagues last year. The year before that, 91. You're telling me when he's 130 games in the middle of August, he's going to be the same player? He's never done that before. So Mark Vientos, most games he's played, 111 in 2019, 83 in 2021, 117 in 2022. Francisco Alvarez, 117 last year, and that includes 8 games DH in the majors. But these kids are not equipped to play 140 games. So every time the lineup comes out, we can't burn down the house because one of the kids is sitting on a night in a particular night. I think what Buck is doing is going to pay off in the long term. But at the end of the day, the veterans, the guys that are making Marte $20 million this year, Canna $10 or $11 million this year, Alonso, who wants a $200 million contract, these guys got to hit better than 220 or 230. These guys have to hit 270 and produce and hit extra base hits. You know, your shortstop who you're playing $350 million to, 341. He's got to play better than 213. That's just the reality. And guys can have slumps. We get that. They all cannot have slumps at the same time.
Correct.
I'll let Tom get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it before also. I think it's not a criticism of Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen, is the richest owner in baseball, but I do think that some of the Mets' problems in 2023 was the fact that in 2021, right, when he purchased the team in the offseason, he basically had the edict to sign the best players he could. The problem was the 2021 free agent class overall wasn't great. So you were committed to some guys, and they made some trades recently. I know we've talked about, hey, you only could trade for who's out there. You got the best you could get. The problem is there wasn't a lot of good to bring in. So you're committed to guys like, Marte and Canna and Vogelback, and those aren't guys that a championship level team are going to be counting on. Building a championship team takes a long time. It's built through the minors. It's built through, smart free agent signings. And then once that window is open, to really bust it open. Where I feel like the Mets they wanted to, I don't blame them for wanting to do this, but like, let's just get as good as we can right now. But how good does that make you next year and the year after? I think that is where some of these problems stem, and the Mets won't really, I don't think, could get to that really true next level until they can get rid of some of those B-level players and buy up the next level of talent that's available, hopefully in that offseason for the Mets.
Yep.
Plus the rookies developing too.
Absolutely. For the New York Mets, as we mentioned before, 5.5 back of the division. So, it's not all lost. It's right there. You have a division that's going to be up and down throughout the season with some of these teams. I think the Nationals are well out of it at this rate, but looking good for the Mets in the near coming. But you just got to, for the Mets here right now, you got to get back on to the winning ways. And I know it's going to be tough with this schedule they got coming up, but they can make such a big impact taking 2 games in Atlanta and really turn the fan base around just like that. That's how New York baseball works, folks. You can turn a whole fan base around in 24 hours. It's amazing. But we're gonna move on from Mets baseball. And Joe, what do we got over at YouTube? I know we're live.
Yeah, we are now airing live on YouTube. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for post-game recaps, all episodes of Empire State of Baseball. You get notified if you're subscribed when we go live. You can view it right on your YouTube app, on your phone, or on your computer. Don't forget, subscribe. There's only a 10% of you that actually view the page that are subscribed at the moment. So we need more subscribers on YouTube. Go to YouTube and subscribe.
Absolutely. Get to check out some of the great archived episodes. One of my favorite bits of this show was last year, back in 2021. Tom and Joe made a bet of how successful the Baltimore Orioles were going to be. And they bet if the Orioles were going to be a 100-loss team or not. Joe took the bet and the bait, because what they put up on the line was that they would wear the opposing team's jersey for an episode of the show. And guess what? The Orioles had one of the best seasons they've had in a while, and Joe wore the Yankees jersey towards the end of last season. You got to check that out on YouTube. It's great.
Never been more confident in a bet than I was confident in my O's. So,
that was a fun one. That was a fun one. And
frankly, it wasn't even that fun because it was such a blowout. It wasn't it didn't come down to the last week of the season. I just slaughtered poor Joe.
No, that bet was over in August at the time.
Yep. Also on YouTube, for those of you dialing in, I know on Instagram, for those of you following us on Instagram, we've been hitting up the shorts and the reels game over the last few weeks. So all of our reels created on Instagram will also be available as a YouTube short. So go ahead and check those out.
Yes, sir. And on YouTube and even on Instagram too, if you go to our stories, there's a bit called Chooch's Pick of the Week, where our good buddy Matt Chooch Tucker logs in and he gives us his game predictions, his series predictions for the week, and he's got a good one for us this week. So let's tune in now to Chooch's Pick.
What's up, BSB crew? Chooch is back with Chooch's Pick of the Week, and this week we have the biggest rivalry in sports, Yankees-Red Sox, starting Friday night. 3-game set coming to an end with Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Yankees are going to stay hot, continue to beat down on the Red Sox. They're going to take the series and hopefully move up in the standings. What do you guys got?
All right.
First. Can we talk what Chooch's setup is here with the leopard chair and the tank top? I mean,
he's a Chooch. What do you expect?
My God,
this is a Chooch setup. This is what you expect from Chooch.
I want next week I want him to have an Italian flag crown. He's a really big King Chooch on top of that throne. Man. My God, God bless.
If you couldn't tell the majority of the staff's from Staten Island, now you could. That was the epitome right there of Staten Island in a nutshell. But and of course the Staten Island are going with the New York Yankees, of course, on the pick. So
I
Red Sox,
couldn't
Yankees,
even hear the pick. That everything was so loud about. My eyes were going so many places. I have no idea what he even said.
Well, he's got the Yankees over the Red Sox here, 2-1. The Yankees are hosting the Sox this weekend. First time the Yankees and Red Sox are playing this season, which is wild that it just took all the way to June, middle of June to get there. But starting with Corey Fowles, we'll go the opposite here. What do you think of Chooch's pick here? He's got Yanks over the Sox. Are you with the Chooch here?
I'm with the Chooch with the Yankees, but I actually am going to go with the Yankee sweep. And I'm not a Yankee fan, so I'm not making a homer pick here. I actually think the Yankees take the 3-game set. Red Sox right now, I mean, they're a 500 ball club, just like the Mets, 500 ball club, 30-30. Yankees right now hot, coming off a big series win versus the Dodgers. I watched most of the game last night. It was really a fun game to watch. I'm actually going to go with the Yankees sweep. I think they stay hot through the week.
Well, all right, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know if I give the Yankees a sweep anytime you play Boston. Obviously, it's hard to walk away from one of those series with a sweep. I'm not sure who's pitching in that. I think Boston misses Cole, if I'm not mistaken. I think Cole's pitching, day or two from now?
No, I think Cole.
No, I think he might get game 1. Right?
I think Cole will get game 1. Yeah, because Schmidt's
Cole
pitching
will get
tomorrow.
game 1.
Smith's pitching tomorrow. Nestor would have pitched on Wednesday, but he's out, which I know we'll probably get to. And then Severino's pitching Thursday, so they'll get Cole. And then who? I mean, you guys kind of
a spot starter, and then
they'll get
then who knows with Severino? I mean, that's a wild card in itself. So I mean, chances are the Red Sox will take at least one of these games. And listen, I have no confidence in anything the Red Sox have been doing as of late. So I'll go Yankees 2 out of 3. I'll agree with Chooch.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off Joe there too. I'm gonna also go 2-1. The Yankees are gonna have an issue now trying to figure out who's gonna be pitching in there for Nestor Cortez, even though Cortez wasn't so hot over his last few starts, to say the least, or 2023 season, let alone. But yeah, I also got Yankees over Sox 2-1. How about you, Tom? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of a lame pick, but I'll take Yankees 2-1. They get a Cole start in there. I know the Red Sox have been a kryptonite for Cole in past seasons, so hopefully he can get over that this time around. But again, with some of the injuries, Judge is Judge going to be playing tomorrow? Is Judge going to be out for a month with a broken toe? It seems really up in the air. So I feel like it's really hard to judge before we know about Judge. But I'll still take 2-1. Boston is like a very middling team at this point, and think the Yankees have enough firepower, both in the pitching staff and the offense, to win the series, continue winning series.
That's the name of the game. Continue to win series. And congrats to Matt, by the way, because Matt's last Chooch's pick of the week was a win. He had the Braves over the Rangers 2-1, and he did win that. So now he's 1-2-1. So let's see if we can even that up to 2-2-1. Or we'll see if he's back on his losing ways, like those New York Mets.
Man, I wish the Mets got to face Alek Manoah, because he lasted a third of an inning and gave up 6 earned runs.
Alek Manoah
is bad.
Oh my God, is he bad?
Oh,
he stinks. And all
I
that
wonder
swag.
Who do you think he's blaming for it? Like, I imagine he's blaming like the grounds crew of wherever they're pitching. He's blaming his lunch. He's blaming the traffic on the way to the stadium. Again, the Blue Jays are the whiniest team in all of sports, and he's probably the king of just the biggest babies on that team.
I bet the pitch clock's got a lot to do with some of these pitchers. And I'll say that for Cortez too. I mean, Cortez was a guy last year that part of his thing was throwing off people's rhythm, whether it was taking longer or quick pitching.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's taken away from his game. He can't.
But Nestor was one of the fastest pitchers in baseball last year.
No, he was, but
I don't think that
he did it in a way where he would slow down and then speed up for 3 pitches, and then take his time with the 4th pitch and do the hesitations. And
the hesitation and stuff he can still do. I think it's just listen, like
you got to start earlier.
Yeah.
Again, if it comes into your head. And when you're a pitcher and you're thinking about it and you haven't been around as long as some of the veterans who can adapt to that, I think that really affects guys like that. Like Manoah's never really dealt with that before. I think it's a problem for a lot of these pitchers that are struggling right now.
Yep, and we're gonna get more into the Yankees in a moment with the Bronx is burning because we hyped up that segment earlier as part of our lineup card post on.
Instagram. That's where we did it.
There we go.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the Instagram earlier. Make sure to give us a follow at Empire State of Baseball. You can follow us individually. Corey at Corey Favs, Joe at Junior Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, myself at T Wospil on Instagram. We also mentioned our Mets minutes and our River Ave rewinds where we're doing recaps of most games. Now, if games end late at night, sometimes we're a little sleepy and we don't get them done, or if the games aren't very interesting. But for most games, we get the recaps out there. Sometimes in the morning. We all have bedtimes out here. So check those out. But yeah, also
West Coast games.
A lot of good previews for the shows. You'll see the Chooch's pick of the week. You'll see some of the other segments kind of talked about throughout Monday, so you have an idea what's coming as you come live at 8:00. So check us out on Instagram.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening on the gram. So thanks for that, Tom. And let's get into the Bronx is burning. So on the flip side with the Yankees, things look good as far as if you're looking at the team's performance. 4-2 in their West Coast trip against the Mariners and the Dodgers. And we know the Mariners are off to a slow start, working their way back up the standings, but we know the Mariners are a more serious team than what they put out there against the Yankees last week. I mean, Kirby had a phenomenal game against the Mariners, so they're still a serious team. And the Dodgers, the Dodgers were a first place team entering the weekend. So to take 2 against the Dodgers, and honestly, Tom, for the Yankees, they stole 2 there. You lost Judge for an entire game. That's a game you're set up to lose. The Dodgers pitching, the young pitching that the Yankees always have a trouble with. They got to Michael Grove in that Saturday game. Bobby Miller he looked like a future Cy Young Award winner on Sunday, but the Yankees prevailed and they head back home for a series against the White Sox.
Yeah, I feel like the Yankees just keep playing like they're not playing well, but they keep winning. They keep winning series, and I think that's an important thing if you want to be a successful team throughout the season. Is you're not going to have your A game all year. We saw the Yankees last year start off as good as you could possibly be, and then they really fell off later in the season. Were able to recover. Right now, I feel like they just aren't overall playing well. If you look up and down the lineup card, you look up and down the pitching staff. The starters especially, you're not going to see a lot of things that jump out that make you excited, but they keep winning. So if you keep winning when you're not really playing great and you have a lot of guys hurt, hopefully you get those reinforcements back and you're able to really make a run in the second half. We know Tampa's not going to keep this up, and they've already started to come back down to earth. Tampa is not going to be the greatest team who has ever existed. So that's, they're going to come back to the pack, and the Yankees can be one of the teams to catch them. The Yankees have also had, by a lot of different statistics, the hardest schedule this year. And putting together a nice winning record with that is nothing to be ashamed about. And hopefully as the schedule lightens up at some point, they can start sweeping some series and really pad the winning column.
Yeah. You got to like what you're seeing at a Yankee ball. Back to the rant that I did a few weeks ago, and I did mention the record there, but one of the things I mentioned in that is that the Yankees need to go back to that next man up mentality when players went down, and they certainly did that. Over these last few weeks, we saw guys step up that we weren't expecting to step up in big ways. Guys like Jake Bauers, Willie Calhoun, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who entering the Dodgers series was the hottest offensive player on the Yankees. And Anthony Volpe's had a couple of moments, and I'll stay right there because one of the biggest topics right now involves the Yankees shortstop Anthony Volpe, and there's been a lot of back and forth on how the Yankees should go about this. Obviously, Volpe right now is at a $193. He's hit 9 home runs, so that's nice for a slugging shortstop. But for somebody who you thought is supposed to be a little bit more dynamic than a few occasional home runs, there are Yankee fans that aren't happy with the production they're getting out of Volpe and want to see him sent down. And you look at AAA, and Oswald Peraza is absolutely tearing it up down there. It's hard to ignore. So Tom, obviously, I'm going to get to you in a moment, but I want to toss it to Joe here. How should the Yankees handle their situation here at shortstop. Obviously, they have a lot of talent in the depth chart at that position. But when you have one player that's doing so well and he's so talented and so touted, and you have one player knocking on the door in AAA who's performing better at that level right now, what decision do the Yankees need to make with their players?
Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest thing, right? I mean, you got a guy who's supposed to be your top prospect. He's struggling with his first assignment in the big leagues. Granted, he is very young, but again, I said it earlier in the season where you have to see how he's responded. There was about a week or two where I said, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to send it. His defense was starting to suffer a little bit. You could see it was starting to get to him. He hit the home run the other day. That kind of took a little bit of an edge off, I think. But he was really kind of getting to the point where you thought maybe, all right, he was starting to take the offensive woes with him onto the field. And when you get to that point as a young 21-year-old player where you're just overmatched at the plate and then you bring that on into the field, that as a team and as an organization, you do not want to see that long term. That is something that you can fix. That's something that a hot streak in AAA will fix. And you can get back to it in a few months after you spend some time in the minors. I think the Yankees have to take the approach of that and just continue to monitor him. And again, if he brings it out and it gets really bad, if he drops below, I think if he drops down less than 180 again, I think you got to start to consider making a move. And it's not that he's not going to be your top prospect. It's not that he doesn't have a future with the Yankees. It's that he is young. We've seen this with multiple players. I mean, look at Jared Kelenic, for example, in Seattle. I mean, it has taken him, 2.5 years to find his groove and become a productive major league player. So it doesn't happen at the same time for all these guys. They do have a suitable replacement for him. I think you give it till the All-Star break. But, at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for this team right now because you're in a pennant race. And your starting shortstop has to be a productive player in a pennant race. And I think with Peraza there, with him having a hot streak in AAA, it's definitely in consideration. And I would not think it would be an egregious move if the trigger was pulled.
And there's nothing that pains me more, possibly in this world, than agreeing with Joe. But honestly, I don't know if sending him down is the right move, but I don't think sending him down is this like egregious. How could you do this to him? Again, he is young. Joe, thanks for just ripping off my Kelnick comparison that we did pre-show. So appreciate that. But we'll go to Jordan Walker too. He was, another top prospect for the Cardinals this year. Got sent down after a few games, and then he's back up now. I don't think sending Volpe down would just absolutely destroy him. And frankly, if sending him down,
Tom, that was an odd send down for the Cardinals. I think
Walker
was in the 270s.
He was, but he was defensively not doing well, which Anthony Volpe defensively has not looked great. And he was supposed to be a better defender than what he is showing. And maybe he is bringing some of what he's doing at the plate back onto the field with the glove. And I'm blanking now because I'm thinking of Jordan Walker. But no, I don't think, listen, if you think sending Volpe down is going to destroy his confidence, Anthony Volpe would never be a longtime Yankee, because if that would crush him, how is he's not going to be able to handle anything else that happens in the majors. Peraza has been good in the minors. The problem the Yankees have, they still have this, they have so many middle infielders. They have basically 4 middle infielders for 2 spots, and they're just kind of letting it shake itself out. And that's becoming a problem when Peraza is hitting and Volpe is not. I know he's on pace for a lot of homers and stolen bases, but they're so streaky. It feels like or not streaky. He'll hit a homer and then he'll not get a hit for another 10 at bats. It's frustrating.
So I come in and I have a soft spot for Volpe. For a lot of our new audience members that are joining us, one of my side gigs, I do work with the Somerset Patriots as their on-field host. And last year I was around Volpe a lot. And I loved his attitude, loved seeing him play. He was clearly the best player on the field every single time out. So I have a soft spot there. But when you look at where the Yankees are at with their injuries and all the hell they went through, especially over the beginning of the season. This team is in third place, 6.5 back at Tampa Bay. They played clearly better ball over the last 2 months. Is Volpe, the shortstop, not hitting that great, batting ninth, really hurting the Yankees? Is that causing too much havoc in the standings? I don't think so. I don't think so. So why wouldn't you just have him develop on the major league level? I really, truly feel if this guy gets sent down, you're going to stunt his development. You're going to shake his confidence.
If that shakes his confidence, he'll never make it.
Organization.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily comparing these two players, but it's a similar situation. Was IKF the reason the Yankees weren't winning last year when he was playing shortstop and he wasn't hitting? No. Was IKF, did he have the easiest answer to solve that problem? Yes, and the answer was Peraza. Now, Anthony Volpe and IKF are not the same player, right? Volpe, I do believe, is going to turn out to be a great major league player. Hey, he is still young, but if he's not performing, they can't just keep him up. They can't just keep him up.
Is he hurting the team, Tom? I don't think he's hurting the team.
I'll tell you what.
I think he's defensively. He absolutely is hurting the team defensively.
I don't think he's hurting the team.
He's Corey, so bad in the field right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Volpe did have that huge home run last night. Give you a little insurance in that game versus the Dodgers.
He saves him. Yeah.
But here's my thing with Volpe, too. I mean, granted, you can make the case with Peraza. Peraza is the better defensive shortstop of the two kids, and Peraza's red hot right now in the minor leagues. But, I mean, Peraza did have a brief stint in the majors this year, and it's not like he was killing it. He was a lot worse than Volpe, because at least Volpe's hitting for power. I saw Pars in the chat here mention he's on pace for a 25-40 season, roughly, with home runs and stolen bases. You definitely take that as a rookie shortstop. But I want to call out, too, I mean, you look at the backup. I mean, when Peraza was in the majors, I mean, he was hitting in the 180s. Every Yankee fan, for the most part, was screaming to get IKF out of the starting lineup. Volpe's now your starting shortstop. So do I think it's going to hurt his development if he goes down to the minors? Not really. But I don't think it's like you have a clear cut, yeah, this is the guy we want to play at shortstop over our top prospect in the organization. So I wouldn't be so quick to pull that trigger, because all it takes is 2 weeks, and that 190 average from Volpe could be 225 and a lot of big games too. So I wouldn't pull the trigger just yet. I would at least give him through the month of June.
I wouldn't either.
Continues too.
I wouldn't either, but it's just his approach at the plate can be a little frustrating at times. I do feel like he is swinging for power too much, and he's not a power hitting guy. Yes, I know he might be on pace for 25 homers, but that's not really what he grades out to be. You want him to be a guy that gets on base, steals, puts balls in the gap. And I feel like some of his at-bats recently, he's looked a bit lost at the plate, and he's bringing that into the field, and he's not playing well defensively as a guy who doesn't grade out to be a shortstop in the major leagues. There's a good chance that he is not the shortstop in a couple of years. If Peraza is the truth as well, and the Yankees full plan comes to fruition, I think Volpe's playing second and Peraza's playing short.
And right now, real quick, I'll turn it back to you in a second, Joe. The thing too that's blocking some of this development too, because if you want Peraza to be the guy at shortstop and Volpe the guy at second base, you're blocked right now with Gleyber, and Gleyber's going nowhere. I know there's a lot of talk, should they trade Gleyber Torres? And right now the answer is no. I mean, you're trying to win it all this year with the Yankees. You're not going to sell off pieces unless it's one of those win-win deals, which we don't see as much anymore. But the time to trade Gleyber, if they were going to do it, was in the offseason. That way you could prepare your roster coming into the season. You're not going to trade him now. So you do have a little bit of a logjam there, like you were saying before, Tom, with the infielders. So that's kind of what's hurting right now with Volpe and Peraza. But, Joe, I know you got a lot more, too, to talk about with the Volpe situation. So what's on your mind there?
Yeah, I think the last month or two, the Yankees organization has realized Peraza is the shortstop of the future, not Volpe.
I think they've known that. They just haven't.
Volpe is the future, and then the question becomes all right, if your shortstop of the future is tearing it up in AAA, and your second baseman of the future is playing shortstop in the major leagues, not hitting well, don't you think it would benefit them to switch? Listen, you guys could say whatever you want. Torres is not going to be on this team next year, period, end of story. They are not going to pay him close to $20 million if they think their future is in two other players in the middle of the field. That's just the facts. The Yankees are not going to do it. He's gone. They're not going to trade him in at the deadline unless they can get something in the form of a corner outfielder. where it would be a positional switch because the Yankees outfield situation is dreadful right now. And God forbid Judge goes down for a long period of time. That makes it even worse. But there is a legitimate case that Peraza hits his way into stealing the shortstop spot from Volpe now and going forward.
Can you make a case for both to be on the roster and have regular playing time?
No,
he's not of at bats.
Not without a major. You're talking DFA and Donaldson, which they're not going to do. They've already said they're not going to do that, or trading Glaber. And you're not going to trade Glaber for. Listen, if it's one thing if Volpe was batting 260 and was better than Glaber, and you also had Peraza just completely on fire in the minors, you could get to the deadline and say, okay, you know what? Glaber's not hitting enough to keep these two down. Let me get another asset for Glaber and let's roll with the kids. But that's not the case. If Volpe was giving you a reason to basically exile Glaber, you'd have a case for that. But at the moment, I don't think there's another move you can. Obviously, Rizzo's not going anywhere. DJ's not going anywhere. And IKF is playing every position. I mean,
he's a good utility guy on your team. He's a good utility guy, IKF. And I know you've mentioned Rich too. Is there a path to play both? And I think this is where the big difference is between the scream for playing the kids with the Mets versus the Yankees. For the Mets, you could make the argument that path to playing the three kids is available every day if you do move on from Vogelbach and make Vientos your primary DH. There are also days you could sneak Beatty in left field and Vientos at third base. For the Yankees, it's a little harder because, I mean, like we were saying before, little bit of a logjam with those infielders. They already said, like, you know, we just mentioned Donaldson's not going anywhere. You got LeMahieu under contract. Glaber right now is not getting benched. So
Glaber's the best player out of all of them right now. Correct. That's the thing.
So you're stuck, and they're not going to move Glaber. I know there's a lot of debate on Twitter. I see it every now and then. What are they going to do with Glaber? What are they going to do with Glaber? They are not going to trade Glaber right now. You're trying to win now. You want the best talent on your team. You're not going to trade off a guy to create a spot for a rookie, which could be an unknown.
I'll end on this, and I'm gonna toss it to Corey for our Twitch spot next segment. But for Anthony Volpe, he had a big game yesterday, off day today, back at the stadium, hopefully coming in with some momentum. You got to think there might be just a small piece of him in the back of his mind knowing that Oswald Peraza is doing what he's doing in AAA. And now you're back to that spring training mentality of I am fighting for my job. And listen, at the end of the day, I want to see Volpe up here in the major league level as long as possible. I want him to see him develop here. If this does get to a point, going back to Tom's original point, if it does get to a point where it's affecting every aspect of his game and the Yankees are losing because of it, then you have to make the move. Alrighty, Corey, Twitch, it's the original way to listen in on our show. Obviously, now we're opening up to more streams, but tell us more about Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch. If you want to download the Twitch app on your phone, subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. You will get a notification every time we go live. Again, we go live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes throughout the year, we do go live on different days. We do have the occasional Tuesday or Wednesday show throughout the season. If special news breaks, big acquisition, whatever it might be, we might jump on for 15 minutes just to quickly chat. So download that Twitch app, subscribe to Empire State of Baseball, and enable notifications. That is the easiest way to know that we are going live. You could also find the link in our link tree. If you go to our Twitter and Instagram bios, you will see the link tree, which has not only our Twitch link, but all of our links, Instagram, YouTube, everything you want is on that link tree. So please go ahead, download and subscribe. Empire State of Baseball.
Link tree. It used to be back in the day, you just give the business card out, have all the links that you have to type in and punch in yourself. Now you got a link tree, you click a link. It's beautiful. I love technology.
You're gonna drop the link tree now in the jar for a free sandwich at your local restaurant.
Drop it in the old karate box when you want to go sign up for Tiger Schulman's. Exactly. All righty. Let's go to ESB Games, one of my favorite segments here on the show. Why it's my favorite? Because I'm in the lead here on the host standings. I have 6 points here in our gaming segments. Joe and Tom tied at 3. Corey trying to make his way up here. Now, Joe, you have our Guess the Graph today.
Yes, sir.
So let's see what you pulled up here for us. Without telling us, of course.
JD Davis.
No.
Joe Pugliese.
No.
You would pick an autograph that this looks like Joe Pug. Just saying.
This is this player actually, I believe, was relevant in
Hopefully.
discussions in the last few weeks.
Relevant in discussion in the last few weeks. Talk about everybody.
Yeah.
And of course, on
I believe
sorry,
no
Tom, go for
longer
it.
plays. No longer plays.
No longer plays. We also have non-host standings as well. Riff 0302 from Twitch.
Hey, get off
has
the
pointed.
comments.
No.
Hide those comments, boys.
Yep. No comments here. No comments here. I do see.
I saw
one
Jacob
there, but
DeGrom. So
I did see one of those in the
but
chat.
No, too easy.
technically isn't also playing
Yep.
either. So
Nope. True. 60
Well,
day
I believe this player is unofficially or semi-officially retired.
Oh, that means he's definitely playing somewhere. He's definitely employed by somebody. Hey D. I mean, is it wrong to say that's a J and that's a D there?
You got the D right.
Travis,
Oh.
it's not Travis Darn now. He's definitely still
Interesting.
playing.
I will say when I looked up this person's autograph, the first letter made no sense.
Now, this is a. I'm
Love
assuming
those.
is this a player with history with one of our local teams, or
Correct.
Okay.
But either formerly played for those teams and might be out of the game altogether.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know the official. I mean, I came up with the game. I should have known, but I don't know how many hints we can ask for here. I'm not going to ask for many, but is this a position player or a pitcher?
It is a position player.
Okay.
Position
And that's all I'll ask.
player.
Because if Joe stumps us all here, then Joe's going to get the point on the host side, and
None of
whatever
us
happens in
want
the
that.
chat happens in the chat.
No one wants that.
Oh. All right. Well, it's definitely a D. Maybe the first is a Y. Like it's got that
Could be.
that cursive Y look to it.
Could be like a
Could be an A. Oh my goodness. I don't know.
It's a cool looking J. It's what it is. I don't care if it's not supposed to be a J. It's a cool looking J.
Yeah.
Don't
I
Julian.
can tell you it's definitely not a J, and I do not know why they write their name like this.
Why they?
But I'll give you a last hint before
I was
we
gonna say we usually give.
one more
I
hint.
always give
Yeah.
a few hints with this. I'm not
Okay.
trying to.
Third hint.
This individual had a record for the Mets that was just recently broken.
Oh.
It's a small record, and it's not really in a record you would find in the record book.
Oh, is this Lucas Duda?
Yes, it is.
Lucas
Oh,
Duda.
there it is.
I know Alonso broke the home
Yeah.
run.
Alonso broke
God
the home
damn.
run.
I was thinking.
Most home runs at
Wow.
Citi Field in Mets history.
Yeah.
I was about to
Lucas
say like
Duda.
whoever the guy. I know who Lucas Duda is, but I was like, it's. I kept thinking JD Davis. Like it's still not JD Davis, but like
I was thinking JD because that looks like I thought that first list was a J. I think we all did.
Right.
JD Davis was a good guess. Just based on the
Excellent.
look.
Excellent. So Corey's in it, man. Now Corey tied it up here. We got 3 tied for second.
We're
And I'm
back
still
in it,
just
baby.
chilling, looking back. And no correct guesses in the chat. Jacob DeGrom, Chris Davis, James Connor's definitely got that one wrong. But guess the graph. That's a fun one. Good stuff, Joe. That was a good one. Lucas Duda.
Yeah.
Now, was that a ball that you acquired over time, or is that just a
No. I know because the record was in the discussion that was a good one. And actually, when I was looking through his autographs, most of his autographs from his major league time had his number on the ball. So that was actually an autograph from his time in the minor leagues.
Okay.
And I thought the number would be too obvious.
they usually do the opposite. As they get to the show, they stop putting the number. So it's interesting.
Well, there you go. So Lucas Duda is the correct answer. Good stuff. Corey Favs, we're climbing right back into the standings. And now let's get to Twitter. And obviously, big day for our Twitter here, which is growing every day. We're up to over 1,900 followers. By next show, we'll probably be at 2K. Who knows? But make sure to give us a follow and love at ESB Podcast, at G Gory for Corey, at JR Pugs for Joe, at T Wospil for Tom, and at Rich J. Rivera for your boy. And of course, we're streaming live on Twitter now. So thank you all for joining us on Twitter. Corey, how's Twitter looking over there? We're getting some good feedback out of our faithful.
Yeah, we've had some viewers popping in and out throughout the night, various viewers throughout the evening. So again, thank you all of our Twitter family out there for both the Mets and Yankees, or just general baseball, for tuning in on Twitter. We got some chats going on within our comments, just some general banter between people. So, but thank you again for the interaction, and looking forward to continue doing this with all of you.
Fantastic. Keep us followed there at ESB Podcast for the latest. We also break all the news regarding the show and any changes happening. All righty, let's finish things up with our State of Baseball segment. This is our big segment for the night. We're going to talk MLB City Connect. And this is an idea brought by our fellow Thomas here. A great idea here for discussion, because the City Connect is the newest sensation in baseball when it comes to just jersey sales. And since 2021, 19 teams have unveiled the City Connect jerseys. The Pittsburgh Pirates will join that group of 19 in a couple of weeks' time. So that always begs the question. Every time a City Connect jersey is unveiled, then we know a Met or Yankee jersey is not involved in that discussion. But what would it look like if the Yankees or Mets were to have their own City Connect jerseys? Now, before we get there, I'll start here with Corey. What's your overall feeling about City Connect? Do you think this is a cool aspect that MLB and Nike partnered on?
I like the idea, but for the most part, I don't like the actual product. There are a couple of jerseys out there which I do think look all right. More than not, though, I dislike the jerseys. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to sports, especially on the baseball side of the house. So I tend to like sticking somewhat to your standard scheme. But some of these jerseys aren't bad, though. I mean, you got the full list here, and thank you for pulling it up, Rich. I mean, some of them are just way too crazy. Like, I really hate, for example, the Rangers one. I don't like that one at all. And there's a couple of here that are good. I actually don't mind the White Sox with the South Side. I know Colorado is a fan favorite with a lot of people. The Cincinnati one's a fan favorite with a lot of people. So the fans, I think, generally do like it. I personally am not the biggest fan. I wouldn't mind if they wore them once in a blue moon. Maybe they do like a big, if every team was going to have it in baseball, I actually think it would be pretty cool. Maybe you make a week out of it where every team across baseball is wearing the City Connect jerseys. That would be kind of interesting. But for the most part, though, I do not like most of these jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's some that are hit or miss. I actually really like the Miami ones. I think that's got a cool flair to it. I think sometimes people are venturing a little too. I hate the San Diego ones. I don't care what anybody says. The San Diego ones are god awful. Look like came out of a highlighter convention.
They're San Diego though.
I know. I hate the Giants one.
Joe's boring.
I actually like Washington. I like Colorado's. The Dodgers basically did nothing with theirs, so I can't give them any credit. I like the Braves because it's a little throwbacky, even though it's kind of boring. I like the Astros. I think the Astros hit it on the head, where it's kind of got that cool theme to it, that historic aspect of it. But I think what we want to try and do is, because the Mets and Yankees are going to get one in the next year or two, I think we want to take a shot here at showing what we envisioned, at least for the first time, what the jerseys could look like. So I think Rich has them up, and we'll start with what? We'll start with the Mets one.
Yeah, let's go with those Mets ones. And Corey and Joe did a great job of coming up with the concept for the City Connect. And let me tell you guys something real quick. I hope you guys don't know that we're not experts in graphic design. There's a lot of even squares and rectangles here, and some a little bit of a 98 Microsoft Paint job going on. But listen, we do the best we can here. But let's talk about this New York Metropolitans jersey.
Yeah, I mean, with the New York one, again, we were talking a little bit before, a little bit traditionalist, me and Joe, when it comes to the game of baseball. So we didn't want to stray too far from the norm. We were actually thinking of doing a black jersey, but the actual New York City colors are blue, orange, and white. So figured, you know what? Let's just keep with a blue one. Then that's the actual New York City color scheme. The biggest change right off the rip, you can see instead of the Mets across the front, we're going with the full name Metropolitans, because the actual full name for the Mets is the Metropolitans. Metropolitans, it's a city. specifically means it's a city. So what better way for a city connect than to use your full name, which basically means large-scale city and metropolitan. So easiest way to do it there. When it comes to Flushing, unfortunately, the first things that come to mind for myself and Joe outside of Mets baseball is probably tennis and chop shops and LaGuardia Airport. So not too much to go off to, but trying to keep that city theme in mind and also running with the Mets and Flushing here. Trying to give a bit of a subway vibe. Give a lot of shout outs to the 7 train. So you see the Mets Willets Point strip going across the bottom of the jersey there. Doing a little bit of a throwback using the Shea Stadium one. We didn't go with the modern one. Figured do a little bit of the throwback. I know Shea Stadium was a staple in Queens. So a little bit of a throwback there. On the front hand side, you'll see a lot of the circle subway symbols. So this is just a sample Brandon Nimmo template. So we're putting the Brandon Nimmo 9 in the subway font up front. We also have the Mets logo and a subway logo on the sleeve as well. The other sleeve, the right-hand sleeve, excuse me, has the actual 7 line as well as the Mets Willets Point Shea Stadium banner. So trying to keep it somewhat traditional, kept the New York City colors of blue, orange, and white, which just happens to be the Mets' alternate color as well with the jerseys, Metropolitans, and subway theme.
Yeah,
when I looked at this jersey, sorry, Joe, I love the subway numbers. I almost would like to have seen, again, not professional graphic designers, but I would love to see that kind of be like the subway colors that you normally see, which I think is like pale red, green, and yellow, I believe, when we see in those subway stations. That'd be really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I actually think one thing that the Mets could do, and I think that is kind of in the back of their mind. Remember when they hosted the All-Star game, they came out with those orange All-Star game jerseys. I could see if we inverse the colors and went with an all orange with blue trim. The Mets have done that in the past. They've done that for spring training uniforms. So I can kind of see them going with that. But I like the idea. I would also have that subway number, that circle 9 on the back as well, and having a big circle 9 like that. So I think that's maybe a way we could spice it up. Again, we weren't graphic designers on this, so but just looking at it that way, I thought that would be cool. But not bad for a first attempt at this.
What I think is what I like, and I like the City Connectors. I know we kind of got off the larger topic of them. I think they're fun. I like different alternate jerseys in all sports. I think kids like them. I think a lot of ways sometimes kids get into sports is a cool looking jersey of what looks cool to them, and what a 30, 40, or 50-year-old thinks is cool is different than what a 10-year-old thinks. So I love the idea of let's have some fun with this, and that's why even some of the Connect jerseys that people don't like. If we're also talking about what they're actually the point of them is to connect to the city, I do enjoy the Boston jersey. Makes sense. Like, I know people like to hate on it, but like it is the Boston flag, like that. They originally were for the marathon. It makes sense. The Texas Rangers one, if you read about what all those logos, what they come from in different teams, it makes sense. When you're the Reds and you're just like, we're gonna make a black jersey. Yeah, it looks cool, but it's like you just made a black jersey. So I like the idea of the City Connect actually connecting to the city or the region of what you play, which I think is a good segue into what Rich and I have been talking about for the Yankees, which I'm sure he's going to pull up in a second here.
Oh yeah, and there it is. This is our Bronx City Connect jersey, and now I just want to start off with this. I don't vouch for the use of graffiti and defacing buildings and doing illegal stuff with the anarchy behavior of some individuals that like using graffiti. But there was a time, and there still is a time, where graffiti was used and a paid for job for people to spruce up some older looking buildings, and that's what you saw in the 1980s, where there was a boom in graffiti art that was kind of born in Philly, but in New York was really making headway in the Bronx. And there are multiple exhibits in the Bronx, including the Bronx Graffiti Art Gallery. There's almost a legend in graffiti based in the Bronx in Henry Chalfant. You can read a whole article about him wherever you do your Google searching, I guess Google. But yes, the Yankees. Bing. So we got analysis, folks. The Bronx. So we got obviously the Bronx in graffiti. The 99 in the back. We just did the Judge jersey there. And we kept the pinstripes. We just reversed it. We went with the the blue base and the white pinstripes there actually kind of resembles, like Tom brought this up to me earlier, it does sort of resemble the South Side Chicago White Sox jersey in a little bit. If we go back to that graphic real quick
Also,
in the bottom right.
the old stadium, the concession. I don't know if they still wear the concession stand, but the concession stands used to have the workers would have the blue with the white pinstripes. So I mean, like I think the challenge that Rich and I had was, what I would love to see the Yankees do is to get one of the graffiti artists from the Bronx and say, like, design this, like you design it, and like, obviously we're not just gonna like give you a blank slate and you just do whatever the hell you want, but with some kind of input, you let them do it. One of the things that is a hallmark around Yankee Stadium, there's a lot of really talented graffiti artists who have murals to old Yankees, or current Yankees and old Yankees. I'd love to let some of those guys, like, get them in a room and let them figure it out and make it cool, right? Make it about the Bronx. And I think you could come up with something really creative that would really piss off a bunch of old guys, which frankly would just kind of be worth it for me. I like that, still keeping some of the tradition of the no names on the jerseys. But you could do, I think, a lot of cool stuff and actually make it a jersey that represents where the team is from, as opposed to here's a jersey that's in all black, or here is, some other just pointless, like we really didn't put any thought into this.
So thoughts from the contrarian side.
Yeah, now I like the idea of the reverse pinstripes too. Definitely keeps it with the Yankee theme, just in reverse there. I like the urban look. You brought up a good point too. The very first thing that came to my mind was the South Side with the White Sox too. So I'm actually cool with this. This isn't a bad one. I think when it comes to the Yankees, the Bronx stands out more than the Mets with Queens. So I do like how you have the Bronx in the front there, as opposed to the Mets with the Metropolitans too. But yeah, I'm cool with the jersey. I kind of like it.
I think you could even also, would be cool for the hat, is you could do, instead of an interlocking NY, do like an interlocking BX. I think that could look. I think that could look really cool as a hat to go along with whatever you want to do.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I just like have fun. Like sports are fun. The jerseys, they can be fun. Like, we don't have to just, like, I love the tradition of the Yankee jerseys, but like you can have some fun with it. Let's have some color out there. Let's do something entertaining.
I think those
Men's league softball worthy.
I think those would sell like hotcakes.
Oh, I would absolutely buy one.
That would 100% be a huge sales number. The question is, I just think the Yankees are too stuffy to do something.
I'm just
that's the big problem.
I'm just like, I'm really thinking they're gonna like end up doing the old like Highlander jerseys, which is like the big NI, and like they're like, it's our history, and it's like, yes, but this is, I don't know. Like, you're doing this for the younger generation. Like, that is who you're trying to excite. You're not trying to excite 55-year-old white guys. Like, that's not the target for this. Let's make something fun that kids will like.
Or Tom, they just put Judge and Cheetah print and call it the Bronx Zoo. Looking like
just have the that's what you should just come out, and just like the tanks, and just like cheetah tanks. Bader would rock it unbelievable.
Everybody wears a different animal. We got zebras, tigers.
And the Chooch could design that one based on the getup he had earlier tonight.
You know what the Mets could do? I just thought of this. They could put like the World's Fair globe on their.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea either, because that's the one good Queens call out.
Something crazy. If you didn't want to do the 7 train, you do the globe on the side.
Yeah.
Or like the spaceships from Men in Black.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. What I would also like to do too, I know with the Circle Mets logo, you have the bridge and the skyline in the background. Again, not graphic designers, so this would have took me about like a season to do. But I would like the bridge maybe in the background, like the Metropolitans written through like an orange bridge. That would have been cool too. But again, there's a lot of ways both teams could go with this. A lot of good options here, and these are just our suggestions. And if you have any feedback, whether it's strong praise or strong criticism or just your own suggestions, definitely let us know in the chats, whether here or on Twitter, and let us know.
And you do have a background in Adobe Photoshop and are 10 times as professional as we are doing this. Try to spruce these up for us and make these look good, or do your own version and just send it to us via ESP Podcast on Twitter or Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. We'd like to see your City Connects as well, and kind of listen in on your ideas as well. But really cool stuff. Great job, everybody who designed these jerseys, and for the great ideas as well. So we're gonna We're going to move on to our thank yous as we always do. And before we get there, just a reminder, next week we'll be back here Monday, June 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern time for our next episode of Empire State of Baseball, number 49, which means we're about to hit episode number 50 really soon. So that's going to be a big episode in a couple of weeks' time. So make sure to tune in for that. We are trying to get a big guest for that. So episode 50. I can't believe it's already here. But until then, let's send off our fans to next week. Thomas?
Yeah, come back next week.
I love it.
The Yankees aren't playing any Monday in June, right?
No, it's listen.
Not a
The Yankees,
Monday in June.
The Yankees really tried to schedule it just to kind of get the ESB boot
nice.
bump for the squad here. So now that we're streaming to so many different platforms, if you're a Yankee fan, tell other Yankee fans you're not watching the Yankees for the next 3 weeks on a Monday. So tune in and just hear dumb things that Joe says that I'll yell at him for.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you to all the new listeners that discovered us on Twitter and YouTube. And glad you guys could join. Hopefully you see it next few weeks. You join in more and more, get comfortable joining in the discussion. We'd love to have you. And we'd love for any new listeners that want to come and discover our ESB family.
Yep. No, I echo those exact words too. Thank you to all our new listeners and followers today, especially those on Twitter. Love interacting with you. It's been a fun month or so as we've boosted up the follower count. So thank you again.
2,000 this week.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, Joe, thanks for that. And thanks, everybody, for joining us, for all of you on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We appreciate all the feedback. We want to see more of it. We love interacting with all of you guys and gals here on Empire State of Baseball. We'll be back here next Monday, of course. But until then, enjoy the rest of the week. Let's go, Yankees. Let's go, Mets. And